It's difficult to change when you're an emotional eater, but you can totally do it. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist specializing in emotional eating. And I wanted to talk about why it's so hard to change when you're an emotional eater. And I think it's important that you understand the journey of growth and what that looks like, because if you don't understand what growth looks like, then you get stuck in your fears and doubts and thinking that you're a failure, that you're broken, something's wrong with you. And you don't get to the other side of this pattern to resolution, to feeling at ease and peace and confident around food and in your body. And so I wish I had this video when I was starting my journey, because I didn't understand what emotional eating was. I didn't understand what growth looked like. And I just had to keep putting one foot in front of the other, not knowing that my doubts or all of these limiting beliefs I had were directing me in the right path or telling me to stop. I didn't really know. I was really navigating in the dark. And so what I've come to learn after resolving my own emotional eating and guiding women to resolving theirs is that there is this path of growth. And it's important that we understand what growth looks like. We understand why we, hit these walls and we can't make it through, because it's going to help us see what we actually need to get to the other side. So when we are very young, up until the age of 7 or so, we're really absorbing a lot of patterns. We don't have a lot of discernment. And so we're picking up different patterns. Some might be healthy for us, some might not be healthy for us. So if we had parents or caregivers that can move through their emotions, they ate really well, they gave us really great solid habits, we didn't have to think about it. We absorbed it. And the same is true if we picked up habits that weren't so great for us. And so they are automatically sort of implanted into our brain. We just operate from them. We don't have to think about it. We didn't have much resistance to it. And this is, from 0 to 7 is also the age I see with clients where they develop their emotional eating coping mechanism. So it's really deeply ingrained and it's an automatic pattern. They've just practiced it so much. And so in order to change something that's been so deeply ingrained, in order to change whether it's healthy or not healthy, we have to step outside of our comfort zone, where we're comfortable, where we know what's going to happen. And it might not be the best for us or feel super comfortable, but this is where our brain thinks is safe. It's really familiar with this. And every time we step out of this, we're going to hit some kind of resistance or self-doubt, even if as an adult we know we have all the facts, we intellectually know we need to get out of this pattern, we are still going to hit up against this old sort of pattern, we're going to hit up against our brain trying to keep us safe. And so when you're trying to do this on your own, it's hard to see yourself unless you're super self-aware. And especially if you have an emotional eating pattern, that means you're taken over automatically. It's a subconscious pattern. It's a coping mechanism. You're taken over really quickly into this pattern. And if you don't have the right support or tools or guidance to get out of it, you're not going to be able to pull yourself out of it consistently enough to shift the pattern. And so this is something that I saw with myself. It's almost like you're trying something and you hit your head against the wall. You can't seem to go through that resistance or that self-doubt. And so I'm really good at willpowering and committing to things. And I did this for a really long time. So I tried every diet. I was going to therapy for almost 2 years. I was seeing a chiropractor. I would commit for several months at a time. A personal trainer. I had a holistic nutritionist. I was trying all of these things, but they didn't know what I had. They didn't know I was an emotional eater. I just told them I was experiencing. And there weren't deeper tools to help me navigate this pattern, to shift it, to move through it. It was really like white knuckling it. And, sometimes if we want to create a new habit, it's uncomfortable. It's out of our comfort zone. We can do it and we can practice it and it becomes, we have to just kind of move through the discomfort of it. But when it's a coping mechanism, it's much more difficult. That coping mechanism is so much more powerful and it's trying to keep us safe. It's so powerful. And it's the only way we know to create some semblance of regulation and safety, that when we try to change, it's going to pull us back into the pattern, and we're going to feel more like a failure. We're going to feel more, we're going to hear more doubts and limiting beliefs as it comes up. And so we need to understand that this pattern, we're going to get pulled back into it until we really clear it at the root. And this is something that's not sort of talked about. So let's say you have a vision, you want ease and confidence around food and in your body, and you have sort of the tangible steps. And I'm going to say that a lot of the times the diets and exercise plans out there are not connecting us to us. It is still, we're trying to fit ourselves into a mold, and we're going to have sort of an internal resistance because it doesn't feel good. We're not going to have enough momentum or motivation to do these things because they're depriving and restricting us. So there's one aspect where we need to connect back to food and our body in a way that feels good to us, while also dealing with the deeper blockages, that deeper root pattern of our emotional eating, which is going to be around when we're triggered into our emotional eating. And there are several ways we can be triggered when we're restricting food and punishing ourselves around food. That can trigger emotional eating. When we're shaming our body, that can trigger emotional eating. When we are avoiding our emotions and they build up, that triggers emotional eating. And so we need to be looking at all of these layers in order to resolve this pattern at the root. And so in order to do that, because this pattern is so powerful, we need to have powerful tools. We need to have support and guidance so that we're not spending years and decades doing this. We need to really come back and really work with this pattern. And what I found for myself, as I was going through this journey, was that I had a lot of support and guidance, and still it wasn't getting to the root. So certain tools were missing for me. And when I finally figured out how to track my pattern, which is something I teach to clients inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program, start seeing the triggers and using them to go into the pattern. So almost doing it not in the moment, fighting an urge, but going back and retroactively seeing what that pattern was about. That's where we start creating a shift in the pattern, and we start breaking apart this association of using food to soothe ourselves. And then we can, in the moments we're not triggered, we're building up the habits of connecting back to food, connecting back to our body. And we're learning how to be with our emotions as we're seeing when we're triggered throughout the day. And this is what breaks apart this pattern. And you have an understanding that it takes time. It says it takes about 20 to 60 days to create a new habit. And that's without resistance or a coping mechanism. But what I've found with the deeper tools that I use with clients, these somatic meditations to really get into the root, clear out, this pattern at the root, really process and integrate on a body level and meet our true needs so that we can move forward powerfully, it can take less time because these meditations are very powerful. And so we have to understand that growth is not perfect, that we are starting off really from this place where we have this old pattern that's very powerful. And when we try to create change, we're going to be pulled back into it. Because when we create change, we are essentially moving out of our comfort zone. We're moving ourselves into uncertainty, into something, even if we intellectually know that it's going to be something different, our body is feeling something's changing, and our mind is going to try to keep us safe by limiting us, by making us doubt ourselves. And so if someone has walked the path before you, they're going to see that this is happening, and they're going to be able to say, okay, let's look at that. Let's keep going. Let's look at the deeper blocks that are coming up, the triggers that are coming up, and let's keep going. And how do we regulate ourselves and move through that discomfort and start implementing the steps around creating that healthy relationship to food, our body, and our emotions while dealing with the deeper triggers, pulling us into this coping mechanism, resolving that coping mechanism so that we're meeting our true needs and we'll no longer need food to soothe ourselves. And so we do this inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program. We are looking at the layers to your emotional eating, guiding you, giving you that support in a 12-week container so that the resistance that comes up, the doubt, the fears that come up, they're par for the course. I see this all the time with clients. And so when you're in a container like that and you're going through the ups and downs, you're able to move through it. When you doubt yourself, when you are at the lowest, we can see the pattern. We can see that, yes, this is what's happening, but this is good. We can work with this. We can move through it and find that deeper layer so that you can keep moving forward towards your goal of resolving your emotional eating. And this is what I see for clients. We get to the other side. They have the tools, they have the strategies, they have the in-depth tools to get to the root of this, and they have the guidance and support and someone there to help them move through this journey. So if you have found that you keep hitting walls with your emotional eating and you can't seem to resolve it, you don't feel that aha yet, then I invite you to start off with the first step I always recommend to clients and to anyone coming into my world is to start learning to discern true from emotional hunger. Once you start learning to discern true from emotional hunger and catching your triggers, this is going to open your eyes up to your pattern. And I have a free guide called What Are You Truly Hungry For? You can download it below. If you are ready to resolve your emotional eating and you're looking for guidance, support, and the step-by-step process to actually resolve this pattern so you get to ease and peace and confidence around food and in your body, then you can find out more about the Emotional Eating Evolution program. I'll put the link below. So I just want to say, if you have any questions about what I've shared, please let me know. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. And I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day.